Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creator Pod, where I chat to creators here in the UK about what it's like to actually be on YouTube. This week I'm chatting to Robert from ByteSizeClu. Rob, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
It's going good. To start off then, do you want to tell us a little bit about your channel?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been running ByteSizeClu in some sort of way for well over 5 years now. I started it off at university. Originally it was called Review Clue, and in that time I've kind of revised the channel to be a little more concise. But what I do is I run tech reviews, tech unboxings, and basically anything tech related.
So 5 years, that's a long time then. What brought you to YouTube in the first place?
Honestly, I've always wanted to do something in this sort of space, in the creative, being on stage. When I was a kid, I always wanted to do something in performing arts, right? And as I grew up, it's still something that I want to do, but realised that it wasn't something that I could do as a full-time job if I wanted to actually be paid, you know?
Yeah. How did you land on tech reviews then?
So I've always enjoyed tech. I've always enjoyed being in this space. While I was at university, I studied computer games technology, so was surrounded by virtual reality headsets and the latest bits of tech. And as I was buying them in, I started kind of giving my opinions on them on Amazon, actually, through Amazon reviews. And I thought, do you know what? I could probably expand on this further, and started doing the video style reviews, and it kind of kicked off from there.
Before you started on YouTube then, was there anybody that was already on YouTube that you looked at as like a bit of an inspiration?
I mean, absolutely. You've got these standard names, right? You've got Linus Tech Tips, you've got MKBHD. I'm not entirely sure if Mr. Who's the Boss was properly around at that point, but it was always that sort of. I always aspired in that tech space. I think at the time as well, Unbox Therapy was a big one. I don't really know what happened to him since, but he was always a big name in that industry.
Yeah, Unbox Therapy was probably, I think that was the first YouTube channel that I actually subscribed to.
Yeah, and I think probably the same for me. It was a weird one that sort of all of a sudden he kind of just stopped showing up in my feed, and I'd won that one.
Yeah, that is a strange one. He was quite big back in the day.
Mm.
But back to your channel then, like when your friends and family started to find out about the YouTube channel, like what was the reaction from that side of things?
I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of my friends that I had at the time were really supportive of it. They loved the idea. My family, they sort of still don't fully understand it. It's still the same now. My wife fully doesn't understand what I do. I'll get her to join in, and we have a podcast together, but I don't think there's a real understanding of exactly how it's all working and what exactly I do when I'm hiding down here doing these videos.
Have you had any of them come to you yet for advice on like starting their own channel or anything like that?
So no, that's not really something that my friends really do. They're more of a keep themselves to themselves kind of person. I'm absolutely out there for talking to the world.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason I started this podcast, because I was struggling to find other creators to talk to about YouTube.
That's the thing. It's such a difficult thing to do, isn't it? In this space, I've joined so many groups on both Facebook, Discord, and they all sort of follow this the samey thing of just people posting their links, and there's no engagement there.
Yeah, especially in the UK. If you search for, let's say you look for a Facebook group, which is like YouTubers in the UK or something like that, it is just people posting links to their videos, like sub for sub type of stuff. I think that's what we're really lacking in the UK, is like a proper YouTube community.
Absolutely,
fingers crossed we get somewhere.
Yeah, it's something that I tried to do in the past for tech reviewers in the UK, but apparently we're few and far between.
Over the past year then, it looks like your thumbnails have just like hit another level. Like what prompted the change in style, and like how did you do it?
So about a year ago, I really started taking what I was doing more seriously. I incorporated what I do here at YouTube as a company, and I knew at that point I had to kind of have this brand identity. And that's kind of what I've tried to follow with the thumbnails, keeping this nice big text that's very, when you see that text, you know it's one of my videos, right? Because it's such a unique look. And also, at about that time, weirdly, was when Photoshop started adding all of their Adobe Firefly tools. So a lot of their AI generation tools. I'm a big supporter of using AI in a workflow for YouTube. I'm not saying that AI is the be-all and end-all of everything. I despise the whole thing of this video was created by AI, the audio was done by AI. That's really not what I do, but having it supporting me in both my thumbnail design, both in my writing process, is a really big thing for me, and I think it has helped me to really up the levels on my thumbnail.
Yeah, I think when I come across a video where it's clearly the images are AI generated, the text is like the text to voice is AI generated, and then the script has been AI generated, it completely loses any kind of like personality to it, and I just kind of switch off from it.
Yeah, and at the moment, that's what I'm finding is the biggest problem with YouTube Shorts as a platform. You can scroll through, and 9 times out of 10, the videos that you get are just AI generated Reddit stories or something like that. It feels like there's this sort of no man's land in YouTube Shorts, but it's being pushed on creators so much that I haven't found my groove with it yet in terms of Shorts.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be such an integral part of like an overall channel. And I find them really difficult to actually make them. And I probably need to consume them more because I'm not a big shorts watcher, but I feel like that's the only way I'm going to get better at them.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's something that I don't understand enough. And honestly, there is a bit of resistance there. I don't like the idea of shorts. With what I do, I prefer to go more in depth, and I really can't do that with a 1 to 3 minute video.
Yeah, so you mentioned you're using Adobe for your thumbnails. What are the AI tools, like how do you use those AI tools to create the thumbnails?
So I'll normally start off with an image of me doing that generic thumbnail face, right? But I'll sit down and think, what exactly is this video about? How exactly am I going to convey to the audience what this video is about? And then I'll normally have the real true to life aspects being me and the product. And then I can build a scene around that. So in a lot of my thumbnails, I've got this nice grassy background and the blue skies. They are just AI generated prompts that I've dragged the background and said, generate me some hills and some nice blue skies. And what that does is it just takes a little bit of that resistance out of spending ages finding the right colors or finding the right images to sit in the background. They're not playing a major role in the composition, but they are there enough to be able to support everything else that's happening.
When it goes into like planning a video for bite-sized clues, how long does it take to go from a video idea to video posted?
So it really depends on the style of video that I'm doing. So I've got one coming up, which is the iPhone 16e review. And I know that one's pretty time sensitive. With new products that are just coming out, I know that other big tech reviewers have already got them. They've got them under embargo. So they've probably already got their videos ready to go on it. And I know that I need to kind of get in there at around the same time as them. So for me, that's going to be maybe a 3 to 5 day turnaround. But for some of my longer term videos, one that I'm working on at the moment has been about 4 or 5 weeks in the making. And it's kind of me experimenting a little more with the channel in terms of storytelling. I really want to be able to tell a little bit more of a story with the reviews that I'm doing, rather than me just reading off some specs to the camera, right?
Yeah, so these longer ones then, the one that you're working like 4 weeks on, what do the steps look like? So is it day one, you coming up with like a thumbnail title idea, or are you starting scripting, or how does it look?
So for me, I use vidIQ quite a lot in the process of deciding if a video is worth doing. Throwing in both the idea and generating just a few simple AI thumbnails of here's what they could look like. And if I look at those and go, that's something that I'd probably click on, then I know that that's a good idea and I can start to run with that idea. Normally, I'll have 5 or 6 different thumbnails and different titles that I'll send off to a group of friends and family and just say, hey, which one of these resonates with you the most? And if they say none of them, then I know the video is probably not going to be a great one. And then if I find one that sits particularly well, I know at that point that I can take that and start to script it. That scripting process for me typically takes a day or two, purely because I will just iterate and iterate and iterate. The first iteration of a script is just a brain dump. It's me thinking out loud and just chucking it down on paper. It's probably not going to be very cohesive or easy to listen to or watch. But as time goes on over the next couple of days, I will start to refine that and really start to build this structure.
Yeah, sometimes when I start writing a script, I look at it after day one and I'm like, how did I even get to this point?
Yeah, it happens a lot. And then you go, I really need to start cutting this down. And I actually think that's one of the parts of the process that I love the most, being able to go from this manic idea in my mind to something a lot more cohesive. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time though. So how do you find fitting that in between? So obviously you've got regular work, you've got family life as well, and then you're fitting in a whole, it's basically like another full-time job, isn't it? Like how do you fit it all in?
So for me, I spend my mornings and my evenings doing it. So I'll come down to I have the joys of working from home. So I can literally be sat at my desk for an hour or two before work doing some scripting and then switch straight into that working mode. And then as soon as I finish for the day, I can go in, do the family duties, and then spend a little bit of time in the evening just refining those scripts. In terms of recordings, that's normally done in the early mornings and during lunch hours as well, because that's when I've got the nice lighting in here and I've got enough sunlight coming through that it supports it.
Now, I just want to touch on some YouTube comment stuff then. So the fear of getting bad comments on a video can put people off even starting a YouTube channel. Have you had to deal with anything like that? Any like negative comments, or do you have any advice for people that are getting negative comments or it's putting them off from starting?
Funnily enough, I do. Whenever it comes to posting videos, I know for a fact that I'm going to get at least 1 or 2 comments of a similar thing. And that is, my eyes wobble continually from left to right. It's a something called nystagmus that I've had since birth. And basically, I will always get 1 or 2 people in the comments criticizing it or just a sort of leaning into it, and I at first kind of took it to heart, but over time you've got to learn to just not do that, right? A lot of the time these comments are coming from people that are hidden behind a pseudonym, don't even have profile pictures. So what I ended up doing was actually capitalizing on that idea. I created a video that just completely talked about the idea of it, what's happening, why it's happening, and also managed to incorporate a product review into that. So then whenever these comments come up, it's really easy for me to just go, hey, look, I could tell you what it is, or you could just go and watch this video. And 9 times out of 10, they will go and watch that video, which gets my channel more engagement and overall brings light to both what the disability is, as well as bringing that engagement into the channel.
Yeah, a lot of the time nearly all of the time, the people leaving these kind of comments have probably never posted a video in their life anyway.
Absolutely.
And there's always going to be people like that on the internet. So I think if you are going to start a YouTube channel, you kind of have to either have thick skin or be ready to build some thick skin, because it's the internet. Those kind of things are coming. Exactly.
And I mean, also I find particularly if the comments are on the slightly ruder side or meaner side, then I'll absolutely play into that and I will have a little bit of a bite back with it, because that's sort of the fun of it. And you've got to also be able to poke fun at yourself. If people will laugh at you, turn it into a laughing with them. Like you can't take offense, especially on the internet these days.
I tell this story all the time, but my first YouTube videos were just my hands. You couldn't even see my face, and people made fun of my voice. So I was like, oh, sorry, I'm just going to go on camera then. People are going to make fun of me anyway.
Exactly. And it's just the YouTube landscape in general has become a lot less toxic over the years. I've got to say, there's definitely more of a community here than there was. And I know as well that with these more negative comments, I've got a group, I've got a community behind me that can also back me up, right? I know I've got a following that have my back.
Now, I just want to move on to this. This is one of my favourite questions that I love to ask people. So it's all about your gear. So I want to know, what kind of gear did you start with? And then what have you moved on to now?
Absolutely. So I started on my phone. It was at the time a Huawei P10, one of the Android phones. Since then, my gear has upped and upped and upped. At the time, I didn't even have any lighting. Now I've got two massive box lights behind me. I tend to shoot on a few different cameras depending on the situation. So right now I'm shooting on an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Primarily that's what I'll use for a lot of my A-roll stuff. For my B-roll, I've got a mirrorless camera as well as a DSLR that I'll switch between depending on scenarios. And then while I'm out and about doing events and that sort of thing, I've got action cameras as well. So I feel like I've gone a bit over the top with the gear that I've got. You really don't need all of this gear to start a YouTube channel. Don't think for a second that because I don't have the fanciest gear, you can't start a YouTube channel, because you absolutely can. And the phone in your pocket is really all you need to get started. The cameras and the audio is so good on them now that you can just plonk it down and have a really good experience.
Yeah, I've chatted to so many people now where they just got started with the phone, and they get to monetization just using the phone. Like one guy even was editing on his phone, getting to monetization and then saving up to buy a camera laptop from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in a position where, with what I do for work anyway, I tend to have a lot of this tech lying around, so I can kind of borrow it from a work scenario to a YouTube scenario. But even if I didn't have that, I think a lot of the quality and a lot of the things that make my videos what they are is just the iPhone that's in my pocket.
Yeah, I mean, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, did you say? Yeah, like phenomenal cameras on it. The video is just insane. Like you can go a long way with just that. I just want to move on then. So is there anything that surprised you about being on YouTube? Anything that was maybe a lot easier than you thought it would be, or maybe something that was harder?
Honestly, the thing that I'm finding that I found the hardest and still do find the hardest is understanding when a video is going to do well, understanding what makes a good video, because no matter how many times I've read articles, I've watched videos, I've read books on the algorithm, I still don't fully understand what it wants. I get the basic premise, but the idea of what makes a viral video is still something that I really, truly don't understand. And I don't think many people do outside of the Mr. Beasts and the Mr. Who's the Bosses of the world.
Yeah. Have you got like a book recommendation that you'd recommend somebody to read?
So I actually, if it was going to be anything at all, I would recommend a film called The YouTube Effect. It's an excellent documentary that followed a few YouTubers. And it was really nice to kind of peel back the curtain and be able to view from their life how they approach things, because it's almost a mindset shift that you've got to get into with YouTube.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of that. What's that on?
I watched it on Amazon Prime. I don't know whether it's on Prime Video still, but you can definitely get it on Amazon. The YouTube Effect.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look at that. From a book's point of view, I think the best one that I've read is Superfans by Pat Flynn, but that doesn't really help you with like the algorithm type of things. It's more about understanding your fan base. But I thought that is, if you're looking for your first book to read on YouTube, that's a great one to get started with.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just going through the YouTube blog, the YouTube blog is an absolute gold mine for ideas. I don't know whether you've read what the CEO of YouTube posted, I think it was maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago, about the state of YouTube in 2025 and where it's going. YouTube is the platform that's used the most to watch YouTube videos is now the TV. So this year in particular, YouTube is having this quite a big shift that we haven't really seen in the last few years towards more TV bingeable content.
That really fits in with like how I treat YouTube as well. YouTube for me is 90% on TV and then the rest 10% on my iPad.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I actually don't even have cable TV anymore. I don't have Sky, Virgin Media. Almost all of my content is from YouTube. I checked my YouTube Premium numbers the other day of how many hours I've watched in the last year of YouTube, and it's something ridiculous, like 400 plus hours of content. It's a scary number.
Yeah, if you could only keep one of like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and YouTube Premium, for me, it's YouTube Premium every day of the week. It's such good value.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And my wife was so resistant to taking it. I said, just do it, because she watches about the same as I do. Completely different creators, but she watches it a sort of similar amount. And I said, just how many of these ads are you watching? Just get YouTube Premium. And she goes, oh, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. And then as soon as she did, she went, how have I lived without this? It's that one subscription that I would never be able to give up from everything.
I'd describe it as a trap. Once you've tried it, you can't go back. Then it's it's a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
So if you could go back to the start, then is there anything that you would have done differently, or is there anything that you'd wish you'd learned sooner?
For me, I think the thing I wish I'd learned sooner is just how important those titles and those thumbnails are. If you don't have a good title and thumbnail, you don't have a good video. So before you even set down a camera and hit that record button, you've really got to plan a little bit more. And I think that's something that lacked in my earlier days of YouTube. And a part of me does miss the kind of raw, uncut versions of reviews that I did back then. But I think I've grown as a creator, and my audience now has grown because of that.
So when it comes to YouTube thumbnails, then, have you tried the A/B testing yet, and how have you found it?
Yes, so I actually use the A/B testing quite a lot. The majority of my videos, I will use that A/B testing feature, and I find it is actually really, really useful for getting that right thumbnail. Sometimes you won't see as big of a result as you might expect. And sometimes it's a unanimous, this one was the better one. But what I've learned from that is the idea of people reading from left to right. It's something that you don't really think about, but of course you do. Most people will read from the top left of the screen to the bottom right. So the engaged face of that shocked face, or whatever you're doing, that's best in your top left, because that's the first thing that people are going to see. And it's something that I learned through A/B testing, and something that I just have continued to put into my thumbnails.
Thank you very much, Robert. That brings us to the end now then. I just want to say thanks for coming on, and I'll link your channel down in the description in case anyone wants to check it out. Do you have any like projects or things that you're working on at the moment that you wanted to give a shout out to that are coming up?
So right now I'm obviously I'm working on my iPhone 16e review, but I'm also working on some more fun, wacky videos that are less so tech reviews, but just fun videos. For example, I don't know if we can see, I'm going to turn the camera a little bit. I've got my resin printer here. One of the big videos that I'm working on at the moment is that I'm trying to clone myself in resin, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And yeah.
No, I'll definitely keep an eye out for that one then.